This is Race Day on Way with Notice. This will be the Deku Reincarnation of Naruto and Sasuke. For the last part we left out on, Deku was training Yaoyorozu and Uraraka. One hand-to-hand combat while helping Yaoyorozu better herself with weapons. And while Deku's training her, his clones is training on his Senjutsu, his elements, and sealing arts. He keeps doing that until the Force Festival comes. When it happens, Todoroki declares war on him, since he can be perceived as the strongest one. Deku ignores him and walks out. Once all the students are outside, Midnight basically tells them the person that's going to give the speech is the person who got first place in the UA exams, which is shown to be Izuna Uchiha. With his name called up, Deku's mostly surprised that he has to make a speech because no one told him about this. Before he goes up there, Naruto asks him, so what are you going to say? Deku tells him, I'm not really sure, I'm just going to say good luck to everybody. Naruto tells him, alright, how about this? You let me take the wheel. After Naruto says that, Deku makes an illusion around himself. That way he'll keep the same appearance, so no one can tell that his eyes change color. Now, while Naruto takes control, he basically gives one of his powerful speeches. But while Naruto's speaking, Deku's talking to Sasuke. He begins to ask him, so how much can I show during the festival? Sasuke looks at him and tells him, this is exactly like our exams. The more capable you are, the more people want you. Deku asks him, okay, but how is that a bad thing? Sasuke looks at him and tells him, you live in a society where people play heroes and villains. There's gonna be some people on both sides pretending to be something that they're not. So I recommend you lay low before they try to use you in any way. Deku tells him, let's make a good plan to make a proper change in this world. But you never explain what we're gonna use for the sports festival. Sasuke tells him, just use fire style and Rasengan. A simple illusion, no crazy ones, no sealing arts, no shadow clones. You can use any taijutsu you want, just don't make it too crazy. Once they're done talking, Naruto ends his speech and everyone gets to applaud him. Everyone except for a few people. That includes Endeavor, Bakugo, Todoroki, Eraserhead, and the purple-haired boy with mind control powers. Todoroki barely even focusing on that speech. He was more focused on trying to win this festival with his ice and his ice alone. Bakugo and Shinso think that he's just full of shit, and Endeavor just think this is whole nonsense. Eraserhead was listening, but he's more on the fact of not trying to go deaf from President Mike, and also trying to go to sleep. After that being said, Midnight told him that they'll be all having a race. After hearing the announcement, Deku was wondering how Uraraka and Mo is going to be in the race. Since Deku training with them, he also helped Uraraka with her footwork too. Mo focusing on her hand-to-hand combat, but a little bit of footwork in there. So she's somewhat stronger than Kanon. Now when it came to training Yaoyorozu, she is slightly stronger as she would be in Kanon, but a little bit more skillful as well when it comes to certain weapons. She does have slightly better hand-to-hand combat as she does, but she's more focused on weapons and movement. They couldn't really teach her that much since A, he doesn't want to show off how skillful he really is, and B, this is a sports festival. While the race is about to get started, Deku begins to feel for people's energy. It feels Todoroki's in the front, feeling his determination on using his ice and his ice alone. Deku gets somewhat suspicious, so he basically gets to Uraraka and tells her to, when those doors open, use your quirk and bounce off the walls. Once the race begins, everyone went to the corridor and Todoroki freezes their feet. But some of the people in his class already knew what he was going to do, so they found a way to break out of it. Uraraka dodges the ice and gets in a full running start. When she does that, she uses her quirk to run on the walls. And when she ever gets a slip, she basically pushes herself and lands on the other wall. If you guys are wondering, can Uraraka actually do this? The answer is yes. With enough strength, speed, and if she keep up her momentum, she can actually do this depending on how far the walls are. For Yaoyorozu, she does the same thing in Kanon. But when it comes to Deku, he usually melts the ice just enough to break it and gets to quietly and quickly move through the crowd. Now, when Deku running through the crowd, he's mostly wondering what place they take, first, second, or third. Because when it comes to Jutsu, he only had Fire Style and Rasengan. Genjutsu, the bare minimum, and Taijutsu, nothing too crazy. Deku also didn't remind himself, no sealing arts and no sage energy. But he also begins to wonder, what about using chakra at its full capacity? Deku begins to wonder, how can he explain how to stick on wall with fire? Deku begins to think about it. and wonders about what the teacher will say since he's not using the ability that he used during the exams. Deku begins to saying for Nezu, he'll understand. For Aizawa, he'll just tell him that he doesn't want to show off. And then for the other teachers, he'll just say it was just making it a fair game. Now, when most of the kids get out the hallway, Deku takes a piece off the robot that comes out and runs with it like he does in canon. Todoroki looks at the robots until he sees 2 0-pointers, and he freezes them. After Todoroki freezes them, he runs right past them. Deku sees that those robots are unbalanced, and he doesn't know how many kids can actually take a robot that size. So Deku decides to use a few fire techniques to get up to the middle of the robot and push it back to the ground. After knocking the robot down, he makes it to the second part of the race. When Deku gets to the ropes, he uses a part of the robot and uses it as a bouncing board so he can speed walk his way through it. Well, Deku speed running on a tightrope. He looks at Todoroki and sees that he's just using his ice to slide on ropes. And Todoroki looks at him. He sees Deku walking on a tightrope with the robot part as a balancer. And he's mostly wondering that Deku might be faster than him, but at this point he might take the advantage if he uses his ice correctly. Even though for a fact that Deku's actually holding back, since A, he doesn't really care about this whole thing, and B, he doesn't want to show off too much. As they're looking at each other for a little bit, they go right back to what they're doing. When Todoroki gets off the ropes, he continues his run. A few minutes have passed, and Deku gets off the ropes. Now, as Deku's continuing to run, he begins to remind himself that he does not need to go out. He had no real reason to go all out in this whole festival. Now, Deku begins to wonder, besides Nezu and Aizawa and some of the teachers, who will mostly figure out that he's holding back and will try to call him out on it. Deku begins to think about it, then realize that he'll figure it out when he finishes the race, when he gets a good look at the people in the stands. Now, when Deku's almost done with the ropes, he can hear Bakugo flying above him with his quirk. Deku doesn't really care about that, so he just goes back to trying to finish the ropes. After finishing the ropes, he continues to run until he reaches the sign that says landmines. Now, while Deku looking at the sign, he tells himself he can't use any crazy elemental attack. Deku tells himself that sounds reasonable, but they never say anything about using a crazy idea. Deku does the same thing that he does in canon, in the process, winning the race. After getting to the stadium, Deku says, "Who needs overall power like that when you got skills like these?" Just to taunt them. Once everyone's done with the race, Midnight introduces the next challenge, which is the cavalry battle. After explaining the rules and telling how many points Deku has, everyone looks at him like he's a piece of meat. Even though Deku doesn't care about this competition, he's not about to lay down and take this. Deku will have some bloodlust, let him know that he's not going to play defense the whole time. If ever taking advantage, he will take their points, if necessary. Now, when it comes to our building up a team, it'll be the same as canon. Once the battle begins, Deku puts an illusion over himself so no one can see him use hand signs. After using certain hand signs, he spits out fire like a flamethrower. Deku uses it to keep people at bay. Now, for Deku using fire like this, his goal is to keep some of the other students away from him. For Bakugo to use some small but fast fireball, but for Todoroki to try to avoid them as best as possible. There are a few reasons why he wants to avoid them, because number one, Yaruto can just make something that's flame-proof, and he doesn't want to basically go too crazy with the fire. Ida can basically dodge some of his fireballs, his small ones. And Deku does not want to mix his fire with Denki's electricity. As for Todoroki, he wants to avoid mostly him, since that he's just going to use his fire to melt his ice so he won't get frostburned so easily. And plus, he doesn't want to go crazy with the fire, since A, he doesn't care about this, and B, he doesn't want to show off. So he's not going to try to completely melt Todoroki's ice like that. Deku begins to look at his team and thinks of a plan. A few seconds pass and he gets an idea. He tells Uraraka to make some weight lists. He tells Tokiyami to send them up in the air by pushing Dark Shadow to the ground, and Mei using her machines. After using Dark Shadow to push them up in the air, Deku tells him to bring him back and tell him to flap his arms like wings. While Tokiyami is doing that, Deku angles himself so he can face the ground, and he begins to use that same jutsu but stronger. No, what Deku's trying to do is make a human version of a jet. The way Deku's trying to replicate a jet is by making Dark Shadows the wings, while he uses propulsors that basically helps them move around. While Tokiyami and Deku are doing that, Uraraka is basically helping them pull this all together, since she's making them all weightless. As for Mei, she's helping out with offense and defense, making sure no one comes in and tries to disturb Tokiyami, while also taking other people's headbands, using her gadgets as a makeshift fishing line. When it comes to most of the team, they either just ignore them and go for other people's points, or try to throw something at them, get them off their game. After Todoroki tries to make a big ice pillar to knock them all down to the ground, but he can't really do so, since Deku mostly sees this and uses his fire, either by pushing them further away, pushing them to Todoroki's left side to where he can't use it, or basically push them up a little bit higher with his fire. But after Deku, he's not constantly using his fire, he's just relying on Uraraka to keep him afloat. You know Deku's goal was to make something close to a jet. Instead, he just made a weird shaped, a wireless hot air balloon. After Bakugo, he tries to go up there and attack them, but Deku keeps him at bay, using the flamethrower to make sure he can't go to a frontal assault, using a weaker but still hot. After using flamethrower, Deku uses the Phoenix Flower to make sure Bakugo dodges, using a bit more powerful but not deadly, to make Bakugo use stronger explosions to dodge faster. Deku wants Bakugo to dodge so he can exploit his quirk, since you know for a fact that his quirk relying on his sweat, the more he sweats, the more powerful his explosion will be. But there are two flaws with it. If you take him out early before he gets riled up with his quirk, it'll be easy picking, while also exploiting the fact that he needs to sweat. But Deku, with the assistance of his Sharingan, and knowing the body well as he does, he can practically exploit Bakugo's quirk, making it a third option for him. Now Deku thinks of a quick plan and lets up on his fire, letting Bakugo think that he's tired. Bakugo tries to go up closer and use an explosion, but Deku grabs one of his hands and uses fire on his palm and strikes Bakugo on his shoulder, causing an explosion, knocking Bakugo back. You see, what Deku was doing was basically using his sweat against him, basically putting a lighter up to gasoline. After using Bakugo's quirk against him, Deku gut-checked Bakugo, forcing him to basically get to his teammates before he falls. After Bakugo retreats, Deku tells everyone to stop so they can land, so they can give Uraraka a breather. A few minutes are left in the cavalry battle, and Deku asks Uraraka, is she okay? She responds with, I feel like I'm about to throw up. So Deku tells her we should probably move as little as possible to help Uraraka. While it's happening, Todoroki comes rushing right at them. Before Deku can think of a plan, Uraraka tells them that one of the shoes is stuck because of Minerva's balls. So Deku tells her, alright, just tear it off. In the process, it destroys part of the boot. Mei is complaining, but Deku tells her it's either some of your machines get destroyed or we lose this competition. Which one you want it to be? Mei sighs and tells her, alright, let's just win this thing. After getting the yes from Mei, Deku takes off the jetpack and takes off the boot from Uraraka's foot and begins to use it and tells them to rush right at Todoroki. After getting the information, they begin to slowly go up against Todoroki. While they're slowly going over there, Deku tells Tokiyama to send Dark Shadow to attack them. While they're slowly reaching Todoroki's team, Dark Shadow comes out and tries to attack them. But Todoroki tells Momo to do it now, and she pulls out an insulation sheet, while Denki is using his electricity without needing to harm his team. But that's what Deku was planning for. While that's happening, Deku jumps in the air and quickly throws one of the broken shoes at Yaoyorozu and throwing the jetpack at Denki. Deku using the jetpack and the shoe as a projectile to knock Denki and Momo back to hinder Todoroki's team, but rendering their movement or making sure they can't move as well, since Deku picked up that buildup of chakra from Ida. When Deku begins to fall, Todoroki puts up his left hand. He accidentally shoots a fireball at Deku, but Dark Shadow takes the hit, getting weaker, but just enough to grab Deku and pull him back to his team. After that happened, Deku tells his team to move away from Todoroki and stay on his left side. After shooting off that fireball, Todoroki is surprised. It begins to put the fire out. Todoroki is angry and disappointed with himself, but tries to get Deku, but realizing they stay on the left side while having Dark Shadow in front of him. Realizing the only way he can actually stop Dark Shadow by using light, but he doesn't want to use his fire and Kaminari's out. Deku's trying to build distance while staying on Todoroki's left side. Todoroki's trying to catch up to Deku's team. When Bakugo was done dealing with his own little problem, he goes right after Deku. And once they basically attempt to corner him, time's up. When the battle's over, everyone who stayed in the competition begins to celebrate. Mei gets to celebrate a little bit, but still sad that some of her technology was destroyed. Now, after Uraraka, she would love to celebrate, but she's too busy throwing up everything that she ever ate. Deku and Tokiyami begins to look at Uraraka, and Deku responds with, I'll take her to the nurse office. While Deku's taking her to the nurse office, he feels kind of bad since he used her like this, and doesn't know how to really help her since, like, he doesn't really know that much about, in the medical field. He only knows how to incapacitate someone by their natural body or someone with their quirk, or to just heal wounds. He doesn't really know how to help her with this, so when the festival is over, he'll hit the books, so they can probably help her, just in case if he needs her to do something like this, or she already gone past her limits. Once Deku drops her off at the nurse's office, Todoroki asks, can he talk to him? After reuniting with Todoroki, he takes him to the same place that he does in canon, and tells him the same thing. Deku tells him, I understand, and all I say is a few things. Number 1, your father is a piece of shit that deserves to get arrested. Number 2, you don't need to blame what happened with your family on you. That was your father. And number 3, you want to show signs that you resent your father by using half your power? First off, as much as smart you are, you're a fucking idiot. Out of all things you could have did, you could have not been a hero. You could have been a vigilante, literally anything else, but you decided to go down the same path. Deku continued, telling him that I know you want to help people, but you're also going to half-ass it as well, not giving it your all. First off, you might as well just give up and let the people die anyway, if you're going to do that. If you want to be a real hero, get away from your father and give it your all. It's your power, not his. If you can't figure that out, get out of this school. Now with Deku and Todoroki talking, Deku was able to sense Bakugo at the end of the corner. Now Deku could have stopped Bakugo from listening, but he does care enough. But he also have a plan for this, because it's going to come out eventually. After Todoroki done talking, they both leave. Deku goes towards the newly built arena, so he can fight Shinso. Before Deku can get into the arena, someone warns him about Shinso's quirk. Deku gives him a thumbs up, and basically walks off. While he's walking to the arena, Deku texted Aizawa, telling him that he should train Shinso, so he can give him a chance. Once they both enter the ring, and Midnight tells him to go. He tries to talk to Deku so he can use his quirk, but Deku actually responds, letting Shinso use his quirk on him. But in reality, he can break out at any time since he's been training under illusions, and Naruto and Sasuke can just break him out of it. So after being told to walk out the arena, before Deku gets anywhere close to it, he breaks out of it, but instead he stumbles and falls, almost close to the line. Deku pretends like the fall broke him out of the illusion, and turns to Shinso and basically walks up towards him and begins to fighting his opponent. But it's practically one-sided. So when Shinso gets knocked out the ring, Deku decides to take him to the nurse's office, telling Shinso that his quirk is pretty good, but you're relying on it too much. So you should probably work on your body as well. Shinso's not sure if he's giving him some advice or just gloating right in front of him. He's not completely sure, but he probably could at least give it a try. Now when it comes to everyone else's matches, it'll be the same. You know Yaoyorozu have been training with Deku. Tokiyami still puts on the back foot as he does in canon. He has put in a lot more effort into his fight though. He has improved, but not enough to outright beat Tokiyami like this. Now when Midnight announces the next bracket, the people who are going up next go to their waiting room. And once they're done, Deku begins to walk out, but he sees Endeavor. Endeavor comes up to him and tells him, so you're going to be Shoto's next opponent. Deku sighs in irritation and puts on a nervous face in front of Endeavor. And for two reasons. Number one, he's the number 2 hero. And the second reason is because the number 2 hero's son is out there and about to be able to fight him. He tells him, yes I am. Endeavor puts up a grin and tells him, good. You seem like a smart boy. You probably noticed that my son's only using his ice half. He's just being rebellious. Deku wants to get out of here because he might do something that he might regret later. Deku decides to play it off, saying, that's what all parents say when their kid turns to a teenager. After Deku says that, he walks away a little bit faster. He continues to walk until he sees the arena where Todoroki is. When Deku enters the ring, Midnight announces both of the fighters. The matches start and Todoroki tries to free Deku, but he dodges out the way. After doing that, Deku uses Phoenix Flower to shoot at Todoroki, but Todoroki makes an ice wall right in front of him so he can take the shot. While they continue to dodge and shoot at each other, Todoroki begins to ask, why aren't you using your other abilities? Deku rolls his eyes and asks him, what are you talking about? Todoroki tells him, don't play dumb. I know you have more than just fire. I'm hearing from Uraraka that you were using clones during the exams. Not only that, those clones were using a blue ball of energy to destroy some of the robots. Or what about with your fight with Bakugo? You using electricity up against him to knock him out? Or what about the attack that he used on a normal? Why are you holding back? Deku looks at him side-eye and tells him, "Isn't that ironic? The person that's holding back asking someone else why they're holding back." Todoroki begins to think until he jumps to this conclusion. "My father set you up to this, didn't he?" Deku looks at him with a side-eye, wondering, what are you getting at? And like, it is. What is he paying? What is he doing for you? Is he paying you? Is he gonna make you a sidekick? Is he gonna put you in a good light just to make me use my fire? Deku grits his teeth and wants to say something, but Todoroki cuts him off, saying, How low will he go just to make me into his masterpiece?" And looks at Deku, tells him, "And how far would you go to make some messed up deal with that man?" Before Todoroki even knows it, he realizes he crossed the line by saying, "If your parents knew what type of hero you're trying to be, I would be ashamed of my child that turned out to be a monster, just pretending that it's not." Before Todoroki say anything else, he hears some electricity, begins to look around until he sees Deku right in front of him, with red slitted eyes, slowly putting his palm on Todoroki's chest, telling him quietly that you shouldn't jump to conclusions like this, and pulls his hand back. But before Todoroki can do anything else, Deku quickly pushes his hand back to Todoroki's chest, and before he knows it, Todoroki feels an immense pain and electricity going throughout his body, almost pushing him out of the arena, but he stops himself with an ice wall. Todoroki is stunned and quickly gets up, but when it happens, he sees Deku being surrounded by electricity. Before Todoroki can move, Deku quickly rushes right towards him and tells him, "I'm not sure who I want to murder more, you or your father. I guess I can cripple you and just murder that man instead." Just loud enough for Todoroki can hear, but no one else. And he quickly kicks him on the side, pushing him to the other side of the arena. Deku runs towards Todoroki. Not enough to outright speed blitz him, but just enough for Todoroki to see that he's moving pretty fast. But he mostly tells Todoroki that I never met a hero who was a bigger asshole. But until today, I met your father, and I gotta say, you're going down the same path that he is, but with ice. Before Todoroki can do anything else, Deku begins to punch him repeatedly. While punching Todoroki, he tells him, "You told me your backstory. I know where you're coming from, but I hate your execution. You're basically limiting yourself. The only time you should be doing that is someone can use your element against you. It's your power, not his. How come you can't understand that? If that was true, he would have been using your fire all this time." After hearing that, Todoroki has a flashback as he doesn't canon and he uses fire. After using fire, Todoroki tells him, "I want to be a hero that I want to be." After Deku hears that, Deku gets into a stance and charges his hand out with electricity, not enough to be lethal, but just enough to knock Todoroki out. And tells him if that's true, then he runs right out and tells him, "Come over here then, and prove it to me." After saying that, he runs a little faster, and it puts his hand out in a high five motion. While they're rushing at each other, Midnight and Samantha try to stop the clash, but they fail. When they clash, the big explosion goes off, and smoke begins to cover up the whole stadium. After a few seconds, the dust begins to disappear, and comes out Todoroki, barely holding on to consciousness outside the arena. As for Deku, he's still inside the arena, a few inches away from reaching the line. Whenever it looks at Deku, they can see that he's pretty winded, even though he's just faking it. After Midnight declares that he's a winner, he walks over to Todoroki and picks him up. And Todoroki, before he blacks out, he looks at Deku and tells him, "I'm sorry." Deku tells him, "I understand." After hearing that, Todoroki falls unconscious. After taking him to the nurse's office, he goes back to the stadium so he can watch the other fights. Once he gets to the stadium, he mostly watches the other matches until it reaches to his turn. Now when it comes to fighting Ida, Deku decides to let Ida get some really good hits on him. Now once they both get in the arena and the matches start, they begin to swing off of each other. Deku getting a couple of hits in, Ida getting at least one or two, until Ida begins to pull out his reciprocal burst and actually kicks Deku right in his chin, and runs right behind him and kicks him in the back of the head, right to the ground. After kicking him face first into the ground, Ida grabs his hair and shoulder and quickly runs towards the end of the arena, about to be able to throw him out, but Deku grabs his arm and using his electricity to shock Ida, just enough for him to slow down. He looks around and sees that he's pretty close to the end of the arena. So he grabs Ida's arms and lands on his back, pulling Ida with him. But before Ida can fully land on him, Deku puts his feet on his stomach and kicks him out, causing him to win. Deku stumbles a bit, putting on an act while putting an illusion around him, seeing that he's more beat up than usual. He goes to the nurse's office to get some of his injuries healed and decides to stay in the nurse's office and wait for Bakugo to finish his side. Midnight declares that it will be the final matches, and Bakugo can't wait to show everybody that he's the best in the school. So when he mostly gets down there and waiting for Deku mostly comes to the entrance, tired, extremely tired, and tells Midnight that he forfeits the match. Midnight looks at him and tells him, "Are you sure about this?" And he gives her a nod. After hearing that, she declares that Bakugo is the winner, but he's practically pissed that he didn't prove that he was the best, and he can stop like anyone in any class, including Aizuna right there. So he tries to go up to him, but Deku quickly walks away. Bakugo begins to scream, telling him to come back here and fight, "You're lying." As for Bakugo, he can't tell that Deku's actually faking it. He's just saying that because he wants to prove that he's the best in the school. After ranting about this, Midnight knocks him out with her quirk. They begin to set up the podiums for first, second, and third place. After getting the first and second place medals, they begin to wait for the person who won the festival. Seeing Bakugo chained up like they did in canon, he gives him the medal the same way they gave it to him in canon.